Howdy folks, Jambareeqi here. Years ago, I shared my picks for the top 5 Looney Tunes movies. While that video is now outdated, today I can at least share my choices for the worst Looney Tunes flicks. So grab your carrots and let the list begin, docs. The Looney Bugs Bunny movie. This compilation film is essentially a collection of Looney Tunes shorts that are all directed by Friz Freleng. Yes, this is a Freleng tribute movie made by Friz Freleng. I can appreciate that all the shorts picked for this film are fantastic gems, all directed by a master at his craft. However, unlike other Looney Tunes compilation films, this one doesn't exactly have an overall theme or clear identity. You see, it's split into 3 different acts, and I've racked my brain trying to work out how they're all connected. Every time we switch to the next act, I end up getting whiplash because the change of atmosphere and genre is always a jolt. It's like Friz is pulling a randomizer lever every time there's a new act. This is also another compilation movie that tries to tell coherent stories by combining old shorts with brand new animation. It's an editing gimmick that works well for Act 2, which utilizes Rocky the Gangster shorts to tell a gripping cat-and-mouse secret agent adventure. However, Act 1, which follows Sam landing in hell, is one of the clunkier attempts at blending new and old footage to tell something cohesive. Not only does Sam's motive, which is to kill bugs in order to make the bunny take his place in hell, fail to stay consistent once we cut to any classic short.
Get back there, Rabbit! I'm gonna rob that train!
And I'm gonna save that train!
But watching Sam going back and forth between hell and earth can become kind of monotonous and repetitive. It's a slightly tedious formula that hinders the momentum of what's supposed to be a wacky Sam vs Bugs caper, because we're basically watching a game over screen again and again and again.
Well, and look who just dropped in. You must like it down here. No, I hate it!
Act 3 is perhaps the weakest segment of the whole movie though. It's basically a shorts festival that frames each cartoon like they've been nominated for an award, which is a cute idea, but the ceremony itself holds back the premise and execution, all because the characters in the audience are constantly interrupting these shorts, and the commentary that they offer can only be described as mediocre dad humor.
How do you like that, sister? He's running the whole gamut of emotions from A to B.
These tunes are not bringing their A-game as hecklers, and their unfunny disruptions end up kind of ruining a perfectly good cartoon showcase. This film could have been a bit better if it just picked one act and turned it into a standalone movie, either the story of Yosemite Sam trying to kill bugs to avoid returning to hell, a detective spy movie starring Bugs Bunny, or an Oscars parody that satirizes the backstage antics and celebrity drama of the Academy Awards. Just something to help give the film a stronger direction. Tweety's high-flying adventure. When Granny makes a bet with Colonel Rimfire that Tweety can fly around the world in 80 days, the yellow canary must travel far and wide to live up to said gamble, so that Granny can help save a park. However, Tweety will have to avoid predators in every country he visits. Look, I have a heap of nostalgia for this 2000s movie, and I loved watching it whenever it aired on Cartoon Network's movie night as a kid. Unfortunately, as an adult, I've realized that Tweety's high-flying adventure is just average babysitter fodder. First of all, there's an immense lack of tension to Tweety's adventure, because the canary is being handed constant wind as a hero. It doesn't matter what obstacle is thrown at Tweety, because someone else will quickly get him out of his jam, or good luck will conveniently land on the canary. It's like Tweety is keeping a 4-leaf clover under his feathers.
Look!
Heck, one scene reveals a whole Tweety worshipping cult. That's how much this film panders to its hero.
Oh, great one, please forgive us for displeasing you. Your wish is our command. Name it and it shall be yours.
Now, yes, many cats are after Tweety, including Sylvester, but this aspect also never feels like a danger to the canary's trip either. All because Sylvester and the other felines are rubbish as predators, plus it's so easy for Tweety to collect cat paw prints for travel proof, so their threat level never seems that serious. Tweety's high-flying adventure is also very superficial as a world travel movie. Not only do we spend very little time in each country, but the portrayals of these cultures are limited to shallow stereotypes. So I can't say that the film has educational merit, and kids who are really into geography will be disappointed. Aruga, Tweety's companion, might be a helpful bird, but she doesn't make Tweety's already boring adventure any more exciting, because her only two character traits are making a loud siren noise and gushing over Tweety like he's the bird messiah.
Flying by night through the Poconos put us a full day ahead, Aruga.
Your internal sense of time is truly infallible, Tweety.
You can tell that this film was made when Warner Brothers were still struggling to write female tunes well. Now yes, the finale does amp up the thrills by throwing Tweety and Aruga into an Atlantic hurricane, which sure is a worthy obstacle for a climax, but 1. In this finale, Tweety's success goes to his head, and he makes a reckless decision that leads to the hurricane disaster, an obstacle that endangers Aruga. Then, we get an out-of-nowhere self-reflective musical number about Tweety needing to learn to put friends before winning, even though this finale is the one and only example of him making this mistake. Prior to the hurricane, Tweety was never painted as some kind of winning-obsessed and selfish character, so this big, emotional musical number, while well-meaning in its message, just comes off as a last-minute effort to give perfect Tweety a flaw to work on. 2. Once our heroes escape the hurricane, they find out that they've lost the race. But this chance to teach kids about accepting losing is completely ditched, because you guessed it, Tweety is conveniently handed yet another badge of good luck.
Holy smoke! You mean that subtitle was wrong?
If you want to know how this film could have been better, just turn to the underrated Looney Tunes movie King Tweety, a superior Tweety movie that gives us an intimidating and clever villain, hilarious jokes that will make all ages laugh, and a version of Aruga that actually has a personality.
Hey, let us out of here, you butt nut!
Mind your manners. Don't peanut me.
Tweety's high-flying adventure might bring back memories of my childhood, but when I take off my rose-tinted glasses, all I see are missed opportunities, uninspired ambition, and poor character development. It's a patronizing distraction for kids at best, that serves as a mediocre tribute to the Looney Tunes legacy. Space Jam: A New Legacy. When basketball star LeBron James turns down a Warner Brothers app created by the egotistical AI, Algae Rhythm, the villain kidnaps LeBron's son Dominic and forces the NBA legend to team up with the Looney Tunes for a virtual basketball game. Now, I don't hate A New Legacy as much as everyone else does, because I can appreciate some things about it, like a sincere father-son bonding plot, a villain that's both naturally cartoony and genuinely scary, a basketball-style lead with better acting chops than Michael Jordan, and far more personal stakes for said hero. At the same time though, this sequel doubles down on the worst aspects of the first film, and the negatives of this misplaced, cynical, and overambitious movie outweigh the positives. To begin with, this film is honestly a huge eyesore to look at. It's a busy and noisy movie that mistakes more for better, and to call it excessive would be an understatement. There's just way too much being obnoxiously crammed into the film. The biggest issue is that the whole movie wants to show off every intellectual property that Warner Brothers owns, which not only clouds this movie with way too many aesthetics, but also results in the most overly distracting sports movie audience ever.
Vote the king!
The first Space Jam had its fair share of shameless product placements.
Come on, Michael, it's game time. Get your Hanes on, lace up your Nikes, grab your Wheaties and your Gatorade, and we'll pick up a Big Mac on the way to the ballpark.
But A New Legacy is a full-on commercial for WB's own streaming service that takes advertising and mainstream cinema to gross levels.
I am an algorithm here at Warner Brothers, the studio behind all the classics.
Speaking of brazen vanity, this sequel also gasses up star LeBron James way too much. Sure, he is being portrayed as a flawed parent, but the lengths that this film goes to glaze LeBron is just embarrassing and makes Mr. James even less relatable.
An entrepreneur, a social media superstar with millions of fans worldwide. Algorithmically speaking, he's more than an athlete. He's a king.
Because the film is clearly more interested in its NBA star and many IP cameos, the Looney Tunes themselves end up becoming sidelined. They are in the film, but it's like Warner Brothers don't want them to be there. To make matters worse, because LeBron's arc is all about him having to learn to embrace having fun, the stern Mr. James bans the Tunes from their wacky antics for the game's first half. And we only get to see these maniacs going full cartoon in the final act, which means that the Tunes don't get to be themselves for a chunk of the game. And we only get to see the Tunes in their beautiful 2D forms at the beginning of the film, because our villain gives them all a 3D revision, in a desperate bid to modernize these characters. However, these over-textured CGI Looney Tunes just look creepy and weirdly uncanny, plus lack the fluid zaniness of the hand-drawn forms.
Taz brings it up, he can really pat the rock. And it's stolen by the brow.
That's not the only example of Warner Brothers trying way too hard to modernize the Toons though. There are countless attempts to make these vaudeville characters seem more hip to Gen Z audiences, and I find myself hiding my face in my hands during every swing and miss.
This dude is a hater.
Haters gonna hate.
He's a bad guy.
Oh, and don't get me started on the woeful miscasting of Zendaya for celebrity name clout.
Get it together, guys. The Toon Squad doesn't give up at halftime.
To make this film better, I think that it should have just kept things simple and dropped all the bells and whistles. It could have held onto all the sincere aspects, like the father-son drama and the awesome villain, but the basketball game could take place in space this time, sort of a reverse Space Jam. Going back to basics for a sequel can be fine if you go in with a sense of passion and creative spark. Daffy Duck's Fantastic Island. Daffy and Speedy have been shipwrecked on an island, but their luck changes when they find a map that leads them to a wishing well. Daffy turns the island into a resort and the wishing well into a money-making scheme, but it turns out that said map actually belongs to a very angry Yosemite Sam. This is a dull as dishwater compilation movie that does nothing interesting with its fun framing device. We're basically seeing customers watching their wishes being played out to shorts and then quickly leaving the well after feeling disappointed or happy. Now, take that formula and repeat it for an entire hour. That's Fantastic Island in a nutshell. Sure, wishes can have consequences, but they're only used for punchlines. Not to mention, none of these wishes affect Daffy's resort business, and none of the dissatisfied customers get revenge on the duck. Heck, Daffy never ever loses money because he's running a refund scam. Meanwhile, other compilation films at least try to add some tension to their wraparound stories. From 1001 Rabbit Tales hanging threat of torture and execution over a storyteller bugs, to Quackbusters defunding Daffy's inherited fortune every time he doesn't use said wealth for good. Even if you ignore the poor wraparound storytelling, Fantastic Island is still rather weak as a clip show for several reasons. Firstly, each short is only being picked to fit whatever a tune is wishing for, so it's like we're spinning a game of cartoon roulette, because quality control is playing second fiddle to setting up characters' wishes. Fantastic Island's cartoon collection has no consistent theme or any kind of high standard, it's just a mixed bag of random shorts, and there's more fillers than classics. Oh, and every intro for these cartoons sounds awkward, because the film is clunkily wording each wish to forcefully justify the next short.
If that's his wish, and yours alike, I'll make Chester brave and strong, like Spike.
The only saving grace for this movie is Yosemite Sam, who totally kills it as a pirate villain, and even shows some strategy as a vengeful buccaneer.
What be this? Aha! Looks like the one who's done it is wearing black feathers.
Unfortunately, we have to wait a whole hour until he comes face to face with Daffy. Yes, Sam's arrival is when the film finally has some kind of conflict. However, this showdown isn't exactly grand or spectacular enough to make up for sitting through the tedium of the first 60 minutes.
Watch out for the volcano! Hot rocks! You'll get hot roots!
Every time I watch this film, I can't help but think how it could have been 10 times better if it wasn't a compilation film. This movie has a very fantastical premise, but it never lives up to its own potential because it's a hostage to the clips it's screening. Just imagine a movie about the Looney Tunes staying on a magical tropic island where they can wish for whatever they want, and every request that they make causes severe consequences for Daffy's resort, or sparks tension between all the guests. Bugs Bunny Superstar. This part documentary and part compilation movie explores the history and creation of the Looney Tunes, while also showcasing landmark or beloved Bugs Bunny & Co. shorts. Bugs Bunny Superstar isn't as awful as I remember, but I also see exactly why I disliked it so much the first time I saw it. Don't get the wrong idea, I think that its eclectic Looney Tunes cartoon selection is very good. A solid lineup of historic milestones and memorable gems. Sure, there's a few pretty problematic old clips that are very uncomfortable to watch now, but every other pick is a classic that's worth showcasing. However, the actual packaging of this collection is what shatters the film's potential. You see, this movie was director Larry Jackson's first and only ever film, which, no offense, is very evident throughout. As a documentary, Bugs Bunny Superstar is very hollow and surface level stuff, from the animation process being highly oversimplified to make it digestible for 70s audiences, to character analysis remaining limited to basic trivia.
I think he had the same qualities of Cagney, or Bogart, or even Gable. I don't think he was a lover like Gable was, but He could have been if he wanted to be.
Sure, the behind-the-scenes footage of Termite Terrace is pretty neat, and it is coursing the animators' portfolios, but this documentary is never that interested in elaborating on things or enlightening us further. On top of this, the technical side of this film is poor as well. Yes, it's awesome that the classy Orson Welles is narrating this doc, but he sounds like he's speaking for a walkie-talkie while half asleep in bed.
Over the years, they and their characters have given us more laughs than we can remember. The phrases and jokes from these cartoons once became part of our national vocabulary.
The editing can be sloppy too, because the film has trouble transitioning from its documentary aspect to any of the Looney Tunes shorts. Some cartoons do get a little cute intro, but most of them abruptly interrupt the documentary or get no introduction at all. Ultimately though, I'd say that the biggest detriment to this movie is the tyrannical involvement of Bob Clampett, a talented Looney Tunes director who only agreed to be in this film if the movie makers signed a contract that let him be the main host, pick all the shorts, and have final say on the finished cut, resulting in a painfully biased and vanity-driven documentary. Sure, Bob does make for a charismatic host, but he ends up hogging the movie in an attempt to seem like he's the main visionary behind the Looney Tunes. Or while other Looney Tunes directors have barely any screen time, and their interview footage is used sparingly.
His first line that he ever uttered was with a little chomp of a carrot, and he says, "What's up, Jack?"
What's worse though, is that Bob has this sneaky habit of implying personal credit for character creations, whether he actually created them or not, and will often downplay the team effort behind a Looney Tunes origins.
During my first year at the studio, I did a series of sketches of a wascally wabbit who always outwitted the hunter. But it was several years before a bouncing baby bunny boy was born on the screen.
Overall, Bugs Bunny Superstar is a very unprofessionally made movie that struggles to be a documentary and a compilation film at the same time, but the insecurities and ego of Bob Clampett add salt to the wound. If only the studio rejected Bob Clampett's strict contract and hired someone with more experience for the director's chair, then the first official Looney Tunes movie could have at least been competently made and unbiased. I recently ranked every Looney Tunes movie villain, so feel free to watch that video next. I've been Jambareeqi, and that's all folks.